Oh, you guys are the best. Come on. Don't deserve it. Don't stop. I tell you, I feel so at home here, and there are very few churches across the nation that are as warm and inclusive. Our church, I would feel that way. But when you travel, you don't really feel that same level. But that comes from your leadership, and that's translated to you, and you are the extension of the ministry of this church. So thank you so much for the welcome that you've given me. I feel very deeply connected to this church. You can be seated. Don't want you to pass out or anything. It's all good. I was a part of the church that was the original one. So to see the steeple, and remember I was a young girl and flying here with my parents, and I sang in the choir. I went to Siberia with a group of you, and to see so many of them together last night as we were a part of the wedding, and to see half of us practically that were there on that trip together, it's just a part of the journey. And if Teddy goes missing, he went home with me, so I will steal him. I love him. Very special to me. He sang at my wedding. And honestly, we are connected. I might live in Phoenix, but my heart is here. And it was just an honor. I don't take lightly being here on the stage. It's a big deal. My husband's in Los Angeles, speaking at the Phoenix Dream Center, and Pastor Tommy is my father-in-law, somewhere in the United States, speaking at 84 years old, moving and grooving. And so it's just, amen. So proud of him. So it's just a privilege to get to be doing ministry with family. And my husband he's just independent and allowing me to pursue this dream and the story that you will hear today. There's a couple pictures that'll pop up. My girls, 21 and 23, they're both married to pastors, kids that are youth pastors that are on the same church but different campuses. And both of my daughters work together. And it is a beautiful season. And they are alive and well. They made it out of my house. I didn't kill them. They made it because of Luke. I give him all of that credit. So you'll see why I use that picture as a disclaimer when I tell a funny mom story in a minute. So my text this morning is Exodus 4:2. And the Lord said to him, "What is in your hand?" And he responded, "A staff." Let's pray. Lord, I thank you that we get to be a part of a bigger picture. What you will translate to each individual person here today, I pray your Holy Spirit would speak and draw out what you want them specifically to hear. That is how you work, and that is how beautiful of a father and caring that you are to each of us individually. Anoint my words, guide and direct me in Jesus' name. Amen. Has anyone ever said here today, I don't have the time, it's too hard, I'm not trained, I'm not equipped, I'll do it later when I have more money? I think we've probably all said these things. It's human nature. These are a few of the common excuses people use when they realize God is calling them to serve him for kingdom work. Newsflash, God doesn't need us. We are not that impressive. He's created us for such a time as this, and he's inviting us to partner with him to make an impact, leave a legacy, and live your most adventurous life ever imagined. You know, adventure would be one word I could use for motherhood. I am not Deonza Duran with 6 children, family Von Trapp, as they float home from school singing Doe a Deer and The Hills Are Alive. My household was not like that. I will just give you a couple interesting stories to show you it is a miracle my children made it alive. When Aubrey was 6 months, brand new mom, I had trouble with delivery, so I had high blood pressure for a year and a half after, and we were going on vacation to Coeur d'Alene, and it was Ohio. We were pastoring. It's a long day, and it's a long way away, and I had my precious dog with me in the cage, and I was worried about him going under the plane. I got a new baby I don't quite know what to do with, and my husband's not helping. And so I had a tranquilizer pill for the dog and my blood pressure pill. I'm like, okay, I got to give everyone their, pills. Yeah, I took the tranquilizer pill and gave the dog the blood pressure medication, which was kind of awesome because I went completely incohesive on the plane, drooling, no help at all, which meant that Luke had to do everything on the plane. It was awesome. Not sure how my dog made it. It was alive when it arrived, but his blood pressure probably was A-okay. And then another story, when Aubrey was like 8 and 5, I sent the girls to elementary school in the morning. I was so happy the weekend was over. I was just done with them being home. I know this is shocking. I'm being honest. I'm being very raw with you right now. It's a safe place, right? Hoping so. I feel the judgment a little bit. Deonza. I was just excited the weekend was over, okay? I was taking the children to school. And I just drove. I was all prepared, drove up and just got them to the curb and helped them get out and got your lunches good and burn rubber and ready to go do what I was going to do. So excited. And I heard this screaming behind me. I'm like, what? I rolled down the window. I said, what on the earth is wrong with you? And Aubrey, tears, red face, big eyes. It's like, there's no school. The focus I had to miss a flashing billboard that said, no school. Did I not realize there was no school buses? Or 50 other million parents in line? How did I pull up that day and not have to push my brakes at all? None of that mattered. They were going to school. So to my first point of the message, start where you are. I certainly started where I was. This was certainly displayed in the life of Moses. When God revealed his plan to Moses, he responded with doubt and excuses with all of the insecurities that Moses had about his own life. Exodus 4:1, Moses tells God, but behold, they will not follow me or hearken to my voice, for they will say the Lord has not appeared to you. Exodus 4:2, God said to him, what is in your hand? Moses answered, a rod. God simply answered, cast it down. Sometimes this is the hardest thing for Christians to do because it's human nature. We want to hold on tightly to what we possess in our hands. But once Moses let go of that simple rod, God used it to perform many impossible tasks. The miracle was not performed by the rod, but by partnering with God. It was the power of God. Point number 2, use what is in your hand. Throughout the Bible, God has a wonderful habit of using ordinary people with ordinary items in their hand. For example, a stick, a coat, fish and loaves, slingshot, a jawbone, a rock, and so on. I hope we can all examine what is in our hands today personally. It doesn't have to be grand or majestic, and specifically not what someone else has, as we all love to compare ourselves to other people. God will do miracles with what's in your hand. Another Bible character really that's not talked about a lot, really inspired me, was a judge named Shamgar. In Judges 3:31, after Ehud came Shamgar, the son of Anath, who struck down 600 Philistines with an ox goad, thereby saving the nation of Israel. Well, an ox goad is a farm tool that's flat on one side to wedge up roots that are obstructing, and a pointy on the other side to poke and prod. So during the days of Shamgar, people were not traveling the roads. They were dangerous. The nation was in chaos. The Philistines had taken away all of the weapons from the people, leaving them defenseless and helpless. Shamgar didn't start off being a judge. He started off as a farmer with a simple farm tool in his hand. Shamgar had a vision. This vision aligned with God, and his bias towards action was to see the injustice of God's people redeemed. His holy discontent partnered with God, using what was in his hand, thereby saving the nation of Israel. What is a holy discontent that causes a bias towards action? That is something that stirs you personally. What can you not stand hearing? What turns your stomach? What are you not willing to just sit back and let happen? That's probably what God has placed personally in the heart, in your spirit, drawing you, telling you, this is probably something I want you to step up and get behind. You know, this excites me because point number 3 is go all in. Shamgar went all in. You know, he was a farmer one minute, he was a judge the next. There was a moment of time that passed where he was willing to use what was in his hand. He gave it to God, it came back a powerful tool that saved a nation. There's an amazing young woman that embodied all three of these points, and I'm going to share about her today with you. She started where she was at, she used what was in her hand, and she went all in. Brielle Decker was the 65th wife of Warren Jeffs. Warren Jeffs had 86 wives and ran the largest cult of 14,000 people in Colorado City, which is on the border of Utah and Arizona. Brielle Decker tried to escape 10 different times. When she was back in Colorado City, which was the prophet's house, she was drugged and tied up. She was able to whittle out the screw of a window seal and shimmy off the ropes, and cutting the ropes with this sharp screw. She escaped through a window. It began to find her journey to independence and had no support. She found people that would take care of her, and in doing so, they encouraged her to go for, as a wife, be awarded the house of Warren Jeffs. She applied that to the court system, and she won. The 29,000 square foot, 44 bedroom, 10-acre compound was now Brielle Decker's. She had something very interesting in her hand, didn't she? She had heard that there was a place called the Dream Center, the Phoenix Dream Center, where people would help her. And she found us. We built a relationship with her. We shared the love of Jesus. She is 100% a Christian, going through chaplaincy, knowing the Lord, and the biggest brave advocate for that town they have ever seen. That house, we approached taking it very carefully, making sure that was God's purpose and will, as the FLDS is the fundamental Latter-day Saint, very radical branch off of the LDS community. And we did. We felt like God, this was an opportunity. It was an open door. And so the same house that was once used to enslave and entrap women and children is now being used to restore them. We are 100% full with a waiting list. It is a dream come true. It's a lot to share, but we have a video for you. I think it'll help you digest and grab the story a little bit.
Many of us, including me, knew very little of the FLDS. We saw the images of the women in the pastel dresses with their hair swept up high, who looked like they were from some bygone era. The mothers cried as state officials removed their children from them. They were later returned. And the world wondered, why?
One man, 62 kids. For a leader of the largest polygamous group in the country, membership had its privileges.
He's destroying families, and he's making him more important than a child's own mother.
I was the 65th wife of Warren Jeffs.
65 out of 79. Decker, born Lynette Warner, spent time at the house while married to the child sex offender. Today, Decker is back in Colorado City, back in one of the houses she and the other wives stayed at.
Warren Jeffs' house, it was 45 rooms. I kind of pictured in my mind a dream of maybe helping people, having a place for them to transition. Somebody was helping me and they said, what do you want to call it? And I told them, let's just call it the Dream House. And I'd never heard of the Dream Center.
Amen. Just to dive a little bit deeper into the people that have been left behind by what Warren Jeffs did to the community. There was 8,000 people. The best way to categorize who they are, they're refugees of religious war. Religion and their view of God abused them. Very difficult to approach the love of God and mention church as you interact with a group that has been abused by religion. They're also known as Velcro families. We talk about human trafficking, but familial trafficking is something I had not heard about. A lot of people have to be explained that this particular ministry is not a religious choice. They do not see this as human trafficking, but they are systemically born into this lifestyle. None of them had a choice to get out. And they are traded when the men are punished and they don't comply. Half of their family and children will be traded to another more worthy caretaker. So don't get too used to what your last name is or that these are your siblings or your husband. The town right now is 70% children 17 years and younger. The next are single moms with a 49% poverty rate. School was shut down for 7 years. No education. So at the average education level is a third grade level. 8 and 9-year-old boys are running heavy machinery and tractors. They are some of the most skilled because they were labored, child labor. The 500 of these boys were cast out and called lost boys because they were a sexual threat to the girls. The girls would be attracted to them, obviously, of the appropriate age, but there was only 12 seed bearers allowed to procreate in that community, so they got rid of all the threat, which was 500 boys. To this day, anyone knows that a boy from Shore Creek could build a house in a month and will not stop working. That's because of their systemic childhood. 400 little girls ages 6 to 13 were sent to Texas without their mothers. A mother never expected to keep the baby she birthed and nursed would be switched around so that nobody became attached to their family. That was the level of abuse, and I'm cutting out 90% of it just because of the different age demographic that's in the room today. But we can take it. Warren Jeffs is in federal prison. He has been locked up life plus 20. Thank goodness. This is the state of the community when we took over Brielle's house and entered in. We have renovated 44 bedrooms. Communities and individuals have adopted rooms, and we have made the rooms beautiful. We used some of the wives and the people from the community to help us renovate, and they pulled back the carpet, and they were sweeping out the red dust that is in the Zion National Park where it nestles there. And one of the wives said, "I'm sweeping out the evil." They were a part of the process of renewing the purpose of this house. They had no problem being in there. It was beautiful. One of the most impactful rooms, traumatizing rooms, was when you walked up the front doors. The left was his office, the right was the examination room, and it's exactly what you think it is. It had a hook on the wall and a Murphy bed in the wall that would come down. And many of the women that would come back from the community to take a tour would tremble and shake at the threshold of this room for good reason. And we realized it was time to renovate this room. And we brought a behavioral health specialist into the picture, and she talked to the women, and they expressed their feelings, and they took sledgehammers and axes, and they went to town. And they wrote things on the floor that are probably not godly. It's part of the process. And one of the Murphy bed was so difficult to get off of the bed. One of the boys that have come back that now serves as our security guard was actually Warren Jeffs' bodyguard. His son now is our security guard, and no one will touch him because of the caste system and the name that he holds. He took that Murphy bed and just shattered it and threw it on the ground. And they burnt everything. It's just healing to walk through that process. Some of the other ministries that support our recovery of the Dream Center, education and tutoring house. It's such a vital and important one. We have a robotics camp. Group from Oklahoma came out to share. Many of these children have not seen children's books. They have not watched any movies. They have the education to see a robotics camp happen. It's just beyond stimulating, and they're first. Our food bank is one of the most powerful tools in that it is the trust-building olive branch that before people really trust us, the food insecurity is off the chart. Convoy of Hope drove the very first semi all the way from Missouri. They set us up with non-perishable foods. They brought 3,000 shoes and coats, as the children don't have a Christmas list. They don't celebrate Christmas. All they want is socks, underwear, and coats, because those are things they do not have. We have a transitional house. Joyce Meyer Ministry, because I had mentioned we are full and have a waiting list. She purchased their ministry, a transitional house, 15,000 square feet. Every house is big up there, you have to understand, because there's multiple moms and so many children. So none of these houses are practical, but they're perfect for ministry. So we are now renovating it. That'll free up 11 bedrooms in the Dream Center. And what this transitional house does is we don't have to spoon feed them anymore. One lady is going to get her own apartment, and she'll get her child back from CPS because it's her own dignified living space. And they are our staff members. These are people that are now going to pay a program fee because they have a job. And we're doing Financial Peace University, and just one more step to complete independence. It's just the first one that a Dream Center anywhere has ever had, an independent transitional house that really is a graduation in their recovery. Our church up there, we have church right out of the food bank, the place that they see as a safe meeting space. And you need to understand that the apostates that have been thrown out of the community are not allowed to interact with FLDS. There's only about 10% left now of FLDS, people that still follow prophets or still entrapped. And those two groups are never supposed to come together, but they're all related. And we have had both groups in church. And the women in the FLDS, our teachings are so radically opposed to what they've been told to do, they will raise their hand in the middle of church, and you better be ready to answer their question and be on your feet, because they want to know why what you're saying does not line up with what they've ever heard. It is outstanding. We've had baptisms and salvations. It is just the most incredible journey. So we serve moms, children in need of rescuing out of the FLDS. So you'll see a picture of some girls still in their prairie dresses. They've reached out to us for a radical sting to get them out of their situation. And we are supported by the state troopers on both sides of the state, Utah and Arizona, which is really a unique opportunity. Like I mentioned, this is familial trafficking. The men's recovery include the Lost Boys. And, you know, if we don't train the men and reprogram the way we approach and treat a family and a woman, and having one wife and all the questions they ask, then we're never going to have stabilized families. So we have a phenomenal men's group. We get girls from human trafficking right out of the cartel on the reservation, which is a very relevant thing right now because those laws do not apply to the reservation. And we work with Delta Force members and ex-military, Homeland Security and frontline officers. For those people in different ministries that extract people on the front end, we are the place where they go and start building them back up. So it's a beautiful partnership to have that. Every person gets behavioral health counseling, equine therapy. We help them get their birth certificates. We just had one lady move in with 6 of her children. Not one child has ever been documented. There are no birth certificates. So we're starting way below zero. Talk about a driver's license. I mean, we're like 10 steps before we even get to a driver's license. We help them reach their educational benchmarks, fill out a resume, and find jobs to independence. We've been there for 5 years, but we've only been serving people for the last 2.5 years through renovating process, licensing with the state of Utah, and putting in fire sprinklers. We serve the entire community through the food bank, church, and project outreaches, but the most exciting and fruitful come when we see somebody graduate. The first picture, as it is a little fuzzy, is one of the Lost Boys, Raymond, who found himself homeless and helpless, and he came in and went through the program and got his GED and now is certified firefighter. It's just beautiful young man. He was able to get his son back because of all of these accomplishments. Sarah, who is a mother who for the very first time got her GED. And it's so fun. They get to go to Hilldale, Utah, which is 35 miles away, and they put their robes and their caps on, and they get to ring the town bell and just be celebrated and having that educational accomplishment. And her children are just so excited and rejoicing that mom has a GED. Education and school and priority was just never taught in their world. There's a picture with Lucia and Joyce Myers. Let me tell you what a privilege that is. The Joyce Myers Ministry acknowledging the accomplishments of Lucia, her graduation. She's a chaplain. She is taking her Bible studies in small groups back to the community to share. The women bring 2 van loads down to my daughter's conferences, and they are standing in the front. The first year it was incredible because they were just watching all the women come up to the front and lift their hands, and they're like, what is going on? They've never seen anything like it. The lights, the smokes, the lasers. They think we're crazy, but they just couldn't help themselves. They just started to trickle out and cry and lift their hands. It was just beautiful. There's another picture of a man. His name is Seth. We were going to try to buy a compound in South Dakota. It's 140 acres. I really want it bad. It's also Warren Jeff's. I want to take every compound he has and shove it in his face. Seth is one of the brothers that owns the compound, and we were there looking at potentially purchasing this. Not that this is off the table, but you can't see his hat. Has Dream City Church. And he said, Angel, I don't know why you were born into a normal family and why I was born into a family with 3 moms, and I'm number 38 out of 56. And 9 of my siblings have committed suicide, as the whole goal is works-based. Salvation is all works-based. He goes, 30 of my siblings, I'm telling you, have not committed suicide because of the Dream Center's influence in our community. In Short Creek, I said, Seth, we're never going to leave you. We're not about buildings or properties. We're about people. We're never going to leave you in Colorado City. And he goes, well, if we don't make this deal today, will you take my son from Florida? He's coming out of a detention center. Will you take him in the Dream Center? He thought if we didn't make the deal on the property that I wouldn't take his son into the Dream Center, and he was weeping, hoping that I wouldn't go back on my word. It's going to take a long time to convince these people that we are not going to turn away on them. You know, we didn't do this alone. This church right here is a part of the transformation of this city. We did a tour for pastors a couple of years ago, and there was a man right in the middle. He's being smothered by pastors right now. He was not going to get out of there without a serious transformation. He came just to unlock the doors, and the pastors started to push in, ask his story, and he shared. He began to turn red and tremble and cry, and he gave his heart to the Lord. I mean, you got Keith Kraft, Danny Duran, Tommy Barnett. He wasn't getting out of there without it happening, just telling you that. We did a concert that night, and we like I said, the arts and music was taken away from them. They loved parades and the arts and the music before Warren Jeffs took over. They were allowed to do those things under Rulon Jeffs, his father, still a polygamous practicing community. So we brought in the most beautiful concert. We spent a lot of money doing it with a piano on the stage, and lights and lasers. And this man pulled me aside. His name is can't think of his name. Piano player. Anyway, he said, Angel, get over here. And he's actually LDS, so he's like their Mormon Elvis, because everyone knows him. And we did that purposely, because they knew his impact. William Josephs is his name. You should listen to his piano playing. It's incredible. He said, is that Ed Robeson in the audience? His wife, Karen Robeson, is running for governor of Arizona right now. Robeson Ranch, they're nationwide. So we had invited people up to see our community, to open the eyes of the change that is happening. He said, that man right there paid for my entire education and paid for me to have piano lessons. And he stood up on the stage that night, and he thanked that man. So tell me that those two people intersect in a place called Colorado City, that God doesn't have the capability to work on what we think is one level and he's doing 10 different levels below us. It was just so amazing to see God alive and working in those two people's lives, as well as the 3,000 other that were being blessed by Night of a Million Dreams, inspiring hope in them through music. Dave Ramsey and Pure Flick and Joyce Meyer, these are just a few of the people, thank the Lord, that have gotten behind our movement as it is really approaching a city, not just a dream center. The socioeconomic structure does not exist in the town. So that's why we've had to have the influence of legislators and Congress people. But you know what? Nobody is more giving than God's people. They are not speculating at what you're asking for and what your numbers and why they're not adding up. They just give. And we just go and we just do. So I am so grateful for God's people. Barry Goldwater Jr., I think that picture, there he is. I'm so glad that you shared that story because once again, an example of God working layers below the surface. Yes, Barry Goldwater has been a key to the city of Arizona. People that I needed to wake up to the fact that Colorado City is to be seen. They're no longer corrupt. We need your grants. We need communication. We need you to listen to them when they call, DPS, DHS. We need you to listen to our marshal because they have no guns. The church ran the police office and the police force. So when they left, they took all the armory. We didn't even have a breathalyzer test up there. They're using walkie-talkies. It's like going back in time. But because of Barry Goldwater Jr., he's the keys to the city. He opened all these doors, and it was just incredible. And also through him, the attorneys general, that's Mark Brnovich, flew up there. That is a historic opportunity. He's standing right in the middle of apostates and FLDS. That is a historic picture. They've only ever gone up there for raids that have been documented. And Attorney General Sean Reyes is quite an activist for human trafficking on his own right. He'll put himself right in the middle of money exchanges. He's quite a hero, so he is really excited with what's going on in Colorado City as well. General McGuire, I mean, just to meet all these people, and people don't know exists, or if they do, it's a book that has been closed. And so just to have these people aware of what's going on, I have had pilots, contractors, business people, educators. What's in their hand? It's opportunity. The circle of influence that they have is powerful. And I ask unashamedly for them to engage because it's not for me. It's something they should be paying attention to, and they have the power to do so. The last picture is my directors, Luke and Constance Meredith. He was a field nurse in the Army. He said, I would have breakfast with my friends in the morning. They'd be on my table by noon, dying. It triggered him. He couldn't handle it. He began to dabble, and he had a heart attack at 25. The meth he was using, he grew up in poverty. He said, we eat donuts out of the dumpster. He made his way to the Phoenix Dream Center through the MUNS program and was recovered. His wife also came into the Phoenix Dream Center through human trafficking situation. They both elevated to a place where they were running programs for 7 years, and they are now my directors up in the Short Creek Dream Center. If this doesn't tell you that God is a God of 1 through 5, 10 million chances, he doesn't stop at the chances that he gives us to start over, stand up, and start again. You know, the people who've gone through impactful things and hurt, it doesn't negate you. It actually makes you more powerful in God's hands because you couldn't have someone leading the Dream Center who hadn't been through something themselves. They wouldn't have the respect. They wouldn't listen to you. So I can't believe that I get to do what I'm doing. I didn't start out where I am right here. It makes me weird to even say that I'm CEO of Shore Creek Dream Center. I don't even want to say that word. It just sounds too important. But how I got involved was when I met them up in Colorado City, and I met the man with his 2 wives who said, I got out because I wasn't going to hand one more daughter over to the prophet. I'm done. I'm out. And so he was excommunicated from anyone. Those people got on my skin, and I said, I can't not see it. I went there. It went here. So I asked Brian Steele, who was the original director and set Colorado City up on its feet. I said, what do you need? He goes, I need 30,000 square foot of carpet. I think he was being sarcastic. I said, done. I come from a contractor family. That was easy for me. I could rally people. I rallied contractors. I said, we can renovate this place. That was my go-to project. That was in my hand. I knew how to do that. I started where I was at, and that was in my hand, and then I went all in. I don't think I was signing up for being CEO. I'm like, how'd that happen? But here I am. I just tell the story for people who can't. And that's why I'm willing to stand up here, not my most comfortable spot, but I don't care anymore. This will take me, thank you. This opportunity will take me through the rest of my life. And the reason I tell these two Bible stories and these characters is that you might see yourself, as I saw myself in Moses, the insecurities of speech, and Shamgar being a simple man that had grit. That's all of us. So I hope this story and today translates to you. You see yourself. I don't care if it's Colorado City, it doesn't have to be. But where are you called? This is your community. This is your church. What impact can you make in your community, in this town? You are strategically positioned for God to impact this nation. You're right, time is short. We're almost out. So we better go big or go home. And God is making things turn back to our favor. And he's doing this to create momentum and build energy. So we better find out what we're supposed to be involved in and get behind it. Thank you.